guys, and welcome back to my channel. The case that I'm going to be looking into today is the missing persons case of a young woman called Tiffany Whitton. Now, unfortunately, this case was said to not have a lot of attention around it because of how her past affected her going missing. Well, not affected her going missing, but how it affected people's views on her, which is so sad. Every case deserves to be shared, and it's just what her mother believes as to why her case hasn't been shared. So she did approach a lot of, I don't know where you'd take these cases to, but basically she approached some things to try and spread the awareness of her daughter's case, and they didn't do it. And she believes it's because of her troubled past, which again is just really sad. And all cases just deserve to be shared no matter what the person's past is. It doesn't matter. But there you go. Tiffany Michelle Whitton was born on the 30th of January in 1987 to mother Lisa Daniels. I couldn't find her dad's name, unfortunately, but they did divorce soon after Tiffany was born, so maybe that is the reason why. They lived in Kennesaw in Atlanta. When Tiffany was very young, she was described as being a happy-go-lucky, rambunctious little girl, but her mother did notice signs of trouble. At the age of 2, she was finding toys in her room that didn't belong to her. She didn't know where they'd come from. She'd ask her about it, and Tiffany would say that somebody in daycare had given them to her. So she was lying from a very young age, and that would continue, unfortunately, throughout her life. She would lie more and more throughout her life as she got older. As she became a teen, she would become more rebellious. She ended up actually dropping out of school, high school, I believe. And that would quash her dreams of becoming a veterinarian, because that is really what she wanted to do. But obviously, she drops out of school. She doesn't put the studies in and go to college and things like that. That dream would never come to fruition, unfortunately. She then fell pregnant at a very young age, and she gave this child up for adoption, which was something that would really affect Tiffany's life throughout her entire life. Then in 2008, Tiffany got pregnant again. She gave birth to a beautiful little girl, and she was working, I believe she was working 2 jobs, like a waitress, and I'm not actually sure what the other job was. It might have been like a server, like a restaurant server. But sadly, Tiffany, I don't know the circumstances surrounding it, but she actually started becoming addicted, using substances, and then she would unfortunately become addicted to it. Around this time as well, she got into trouble for shoplifting. Lying, stealing was something that would be like a constant in Tiffany's life. By March of 2011, Tiffany had moved to Dalton. And around this time, she actually was arrested along with several other people for home invasion. She said that she'd gone to this house because somebody owed her $60 and she wanted to get it back. But the police actually believed that that was a lie. They believed that she had gone maybe to go and get some drugs off these people and then sort of tried getting out there without paying or something along those lines. Now, she did actually serve a short time in jail for that. And this is when Tiffany's mother really felt like she had to show her daughter some tough love, I guess. She told her that if she didn't get her life back on track, that she would not be able to see her daughter, because her daughter was actually living with Lisa at that point, with her grandmother. So she wanted to look after her granddaughter and her daughter. She had both their interests at heart. She wanted to protect them both and just wanted Tiffany to get her life back on track, and didn't want her granddaughter to see her mother like that and be involved in that life. So that's what she did. She basically said, you're not going to see her until you sort yourself out. And at that point, the only person that she got off contact with her, and the only person that contacted her, was her grandmother, Anita. And after she spent that short time in jail, Anita was the one that went and collected her at the gates. And this is when she put herself in a rehabilitation program. So that seemed to go really well. She kicked the drugs. She ended up getting a job. She ended up getting a house with a flatmate. Things like that. Everything seemed to go well. She ended up with a boyfriend. She got a job at the International House of Pancakes. Again, she seemingly get her life back on track, but then unfortunately things started to go downhill again, because the boyfriend that I said she got, well, apparently she cheated on him and he found out, so obviously they ended up splitting up. Her roommate kicked her out because she caught her stealing off of her, so she didn't want to live with her anymore. She booted her out. I believe her roommate was called Shelley, I think. So out she goes, and then she meets another man who was called Ashley Cardle. Now, Ashley was in kind of the same boat as her. He had a little girl that he was raising on his own, and he was also basically a drug user. So sadly, that them getting together, him being a substance user, her being a substance user, they ended up using together, unfortunately. So that got her back onto the drugs again. I'm not saying that he got her back onto the drugs, but just the circumstances that they found themselves in, I don't know how it happened, but she did unfortunately begin taking again. And apparently the drugs were stronger this time. She would turn up to work high. She would turn up to work with marks on her skin that obviously didn't look good for the business. So she would end up being sent home from her shifts. She wasn't actually fired. They would just send her home. So she'd get sent home a lot. But it was the last straw with her job when they actually caught her stealing from them on CCTV, and that is when they let her go. Friends said that her relationship with Ashley wasn't very good. Like, it was very rocky. They would argue a lot. They moved into a motel. They would do slanging matches. Police would attend. Neighbours would complain. They'd get kicked out. They moved into like a trailer park. Again, the same thing. They would have these slanging matches. People were concerned for their safety because they were that loud and that crazy. The police would attend again. They got kicked out of that. It was just not a great relationship by the sounds of it. And obviously with her life falling apart again, her losing her job, everything going downhill, that is when her mother once more stopped contact with her daughter. On the 8th of September, she and Ashley went to her grandmother's house to do some laundry apparently, and that was like the first time that anyone had really met Ashley. She was the only person to meet him. What she didn't actually know was that it would be, unfortunately, the last time that she ever saw Tiffany again. On the 12th of September in 2013, Tiffany and Ashley had gone to a friend's house called Stephen Weinstein. They chilled out there for a bit. They would do drugs. And then, not long after 12 a.m, they went in this truck that they had borrowed, and it was about 1 a.m. they got to a Walmart store. They decided to do some shopping. They're going around this store for about an hour. Security guards are actually watching them on the cameras because they were visibly high. Tiffany more so than Ashley, apparently. And she was fidgety. She kept picking stuff up, putting stuff down, and they were just keeping an eye on her because they were suspicious of her. So they're going around, they're doing the shopping, and Ashley picks up this portable speaker and some clothes for his little girl. And then him and Tiffany have this massive argument, apparently, because he is done, he's finished, and she isn't. So she doesn't want to leave, he does. So they argue. But eventually he heads over to the till. She does follow, and he's going to pay for his stuff. He brings out this big wad of cash, this big ball of cash. He pays for the things that he has purchased, and then he starts to leave, Tiffany in tow. Now, the thing is that Tiffany had actually stuffed some clothes, either, I don't know where, in a bag or something like that. And obviously the security guards were watching her, so they saw her. So as they're turning to leave, they catch up to her, they grab her, the strap of her bag, and stop her. And Ashley carries on walking like he doesn't really care. She shouts him, this is all the CCTV footage as well, she shouts him, he stops in the doorway but doesn't really acknowledge her. And this is when Tiffany kicks off her flip-flops, drops her bag and legs it out the door. Like, she's just gone. The security guards do not chase after her, nor does Ashley. They honestly believe that she's going to come back because at the end of the day, she's literally left her bag with everything in. Her shoes even. Like, she's running around barefoot at that point. She's going to come back for, at the very least, if she doesn't come back for a shoe, she's going to come back for a bag surely. So, you know, they assume that she will come back. Ashley heads apparently back to the truck, but he doesn't want to get in because with the security guard and things and all that with Tiffany, there are actually drugs in the car and he doesn't want to get caught for that. So he basically does not get in the truck. He said that he looked around the stores, things like that for Tiffany, could not find her. He couldn't actually ring her because he had her phone. Now, I believe she must have dropped it or something when she's legging it. I don't know how it happened, but apparently he ended up with her phone. So he couldn't actually ring her because of that. And the place that she actually worked was just around the corner. So and her ex-roommate, Shelley, was on shift there. She says that she saw Ashley outside, sat on a park bench at about 2 a.m. She goes outside to ask him what's going on. And he asks if she's seen Tiffany. She says that she hasn't. She doesn't know where she is. And says, why don't you ring her? But he says that he can't because he's got a phone. So he's then apparently waiting there to be collected. At about 2 a.m, Stephen, along with 2 other women, come and pick Ashley up. He tells them that Tiffany's gone missing, that, you know, we don't know where she is. They go back to the house thinking maybe she's there, but she's not. Then in the morning, Ashley does ring around to try and find her. He rings around like hospitals, jails. Maybe she's got in trouble. Maybe she is in the hospital injured somewhere. And phone records do actually confirm this. He also rang around her old boyfriends and things like that just to see whether he could find her, but he was unsuccessful. Now, the thing here is, I really don't understand why, but he didn't actually tell her family that she was missing at all. The only way that they found out that she had been missing for so long, again, her mother wasn't really talking to her. And Tiffany was known for not contacting people for a while, so it wasn't really obscure that she hadn't. But her grandmother actually received a letter from Walmart saying that Tiffany owed her this money for all the stuff that she'd stolen. And then Tiffany's grandmother contacted Ashley to ask about it. And that is when Ashley said that she'd been missing since September. Bearing in mind, this was January at that point. This is 4 months later. So yeah, as you can imagine, she will be like shocked. So she rings Lisa, tells Lisa that Tiffany has been missing for 4 months. And I believe that Lisa honestly thought that she would just contact them. They just figured that she would turn up. But after a little bit of time passes, she does report her as missing. I find it really sad that she wasn't reported as missing sooner. If Ashley would have told her family about it, then she would have been reported missing a lot sooner. And maybe something more could have been done about it, because it was like 4 months after. She'd been gone for so long at that point. And any CCTV or anything like that that may have captured her probably at that point had been overwritten, because they don't keep it for that long. So it's just really difficult. Something I forgot to mention, Lisa went on her Facebook account to see what was going on after obviously she was told that her daughter hadn't been missing, and she'd not used it since the 1st of September, which was very abnormal for Tiffany. She was on there a lot, so the fact that she hadn't posted in so long was very worrying. She's reported missing. The detective that handled the case initially, apparently, according to Lisa, wasn't very interested in it because of her background, most likely. That he figured she'd just get arrested or she'd just turn up one day. Luckily, her case was handed over to another detective who really took it seriously. They looked into it and they actually believed that Tiffany was possibly no longer alive and that foul play had some involvement in it. Tiffany was actually 26 years old when she went missing. And they believe that possibly Ashley had something to do with it. This is what the detective thought at the time. And they actually did a raid on a house that he was living in March, and inside they found weapons, drugs. His daughter was living there, and there were like 7 other people there too, and I believe the living conditions that they were in was just not very, it was horrific basically. So his daughter was taken and put in like a temporary custody. They were really hoping that since there were so many people there that probably knew Tiffany, that somebody would be able to say something, but unfortunately they didn't find anything with regards to Tiffany. Ashley pled guilty for charges to do with the drugs and the weapons and things like that, and he was actually sentenced to 10 to 20 years in prison, which he is still there now. He's still serving out that time. And the police believe, they've actually said that they believe that Ashley is not fully cooperating with Tiffany's case. Then the case was passed over to another detective, and in 2015 they got this tip to say that somebody had actually seen Ashley with a load of friends going over to a lake, Alatoona, something like that. And this was around the time that she actually went missing, and that they dumped this concrete barrel into the lake. The police went and searched, they did sonar and things, and they did find this mass at the bottom of the water. But when they actually dove in and checked it out further, it actually turned out that it was just concrete from like a building site. It was nothing to do with Tiffany's case. Ashley has always denied any involvement in Tiffany's disappearance, and that is the last that we can find on Tiffany's case. Obviously there are theories that she legged it, that she's still out there somewhere, you know, who knows, maybe if she is still with her drug addiction, that she's just in a homeless situation somewhere, and I don't know, I have no idea. Or then you've got the theories of foul play, that possibly Ashley was involved. Obviously these are all only theories, nothing has ever been at the moment linked to Ashley, so I'm not saying that he was involved, it's just what people believe. The police believe that he knows more than he's letting on, so who knows at that point. But unfortunately, to this day, Tiffany's case remains unsolved. I find it really sad that her case didn't get a lot of attention, and again, Lisa has stated that she probably thinks that it's because of her troubled background, which she's missing at the end of the day. Everyone, no matter what their background, deserves to be out in the public eye, deserves for their cases, if they go missing, to be heard and seen and shared. But she tried, and I guess they just didn't do it, which is just really heartbreaking. So let us get this case shared. Let's get it out there. She's been missing since 2013. And her family just want to know where she is. If you enjoyed this video, give me a big thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for similar content. Anyway, that's all I have today on the case of Tiffany Whitton. Thank you so much for watching. And until next time, bye.